Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. Today I am telling you a story about an orphan boy. So let's start. The 11th story, Oliver sent on errand. The next day, when Oliver came down into the housekeeper's room, the picture had been removed, and Mr. Brownlow thought that it worried Oliver. But on Oliver's insistence, it was told that it would be put up again once he was all right. Oliver listened attentively to many stories she told him. She taught him many things and then put him cozily to bed. Oliver's recovery days were happy. Mr. Brownlow bought him a new suit, a new cap, and a new pair of shoes. One evening, Mr. Brownlow sent for Oliver Twist in his study. Mr. Brownlow was seated at a table near the window reading. When he saw Oliver, he pushed the book away from him and then told him to come near and sit down. They both talked about books and laughed a lot. Now, said Mr. Brownlow, speaking more seriously, I want you to pay great attention, my boy, to what I am going to say. Oh, don't tell you are going to send me away, sir, exclaimed Oliver. Don't turn me out to wander in the streets again. Don't send me back to the wretched place I came from. Have mercy on a poor boy, sir. My dear child, said the old gentleman, moved by the Oliver's sudden appeal, you need not be afraid of my deserting you, unless you give me cause. I never will, sir, interposed Oliver. Well, said the old gentleman at length, in a more cheerful tone. You say you are an orphan. Tell me all about yourself and how you got into the company in which I found you. Speak the truth, and you shall not be friendless where I live. Cheerfully, Oliver started telling about his life, and when he was just beginning to relate how he had been brought up at the farm and carried to the workhouse by Mr. Bumble, the servant, announced Mr. Grimwig's arrival and his wish to have muffins and tea. Mr. Brownlow smiled and turning to Oliver said that Mr. Grimwig was an old friend of his and very genuine too. At this moment, a stout old gentleman walked into the room. Hello, what's that? Looking at Oliver. This is young Oliver Twist, whom we are speaking about, said Mr. Brownlow. Oliver bowed. Come, put down your hat and speak to my young friend. How are you, boy? Said Mr. Grimwig. A great deal better, thank you, sir, replied Oliver. Mr. Brownlow asked Oliver to step downstairs and tell Mr. Bedwin that they were ready for tea, which he was very happy to do. He is a nice looking boy, is he not? Inquired Mr. Brownlow. I don't know. Where does he come from? Who is he? What is he? When Mr. Brownlow admitted that he had postponed investigation into Oliver's previous history until the boy was strong enough to hear it, Mr. Grimwig chuckled maliciously. They had the tea and muffins. And when you are going to hear a full and true account of the life of Oliver Twist? Asked Grimwig. Tomorrow morning, replied Mr. Brownlow. I would rather he was alone with me at the time. Come up to me tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock, my dear. Yes, sir, replied Oliver hesitantly. He was confused by Mr. Grimwig's look so hard at him. I'll tell you what, whispered that gentleman to Mr. Brownlow. He won't come up to you tomorrow morning. I saw him hesitate. He is deceiving you, my good friend. I'll swear he is not, replied Mr. Brownlow warmly. Just then, Mrs. Bedwin brought a small parcel of books which Mr. Brownlow had morning purchased from the same bookstall keeper. Stop the boy, Mrs. Bedwin, said Mr. Brownlow. Some books have to go back. He has gone, sir, replied Mrs. Bedwin. Send Oliver with them, said Mr. Grimwig with an ironical smile. He will be sure to deliver them safely, you know. Yes, let me take them, if you please, sir, said Oliver. I'll run all the way, sir. You shall go, my dear, said the old gentleman. The books are on a chair by my table. Fetch them down. You are to say, said Mr. Brownlow, glancing steadily at Grimwig, that you have brought those books back, and that you have come to pay the £4.10 I owe him. This is a £5 note, so you will have to bring me back 10 shillings change. I won't be 10 minutes, sir, said Oliver eagerly. Having buttoned up the back note in his jacket pocket, he took the books and left the room. Mrs. Bedwin told him the name of the bookseller, the street, and the shortest route, all of which Oliver said he clearly understood. He left. Let me see, he'll be back in 20 minutes, at the longest, said Mr. Brownlow. It will be dark by that time. Oh, you really expect him to come back, do you? Inquired Mr. Grimwig. With these words, he drew his chair closer to the table, and the two friends sat, with the watch between them. It grew dark, and the two old gentlemen continued to wait silently.